this author?
No.
Yeah. So this is his first actual novel. He's written 16 books. This is fiction, not nonfiction. Pardon?
Who is he?
Bryce Courtenay, Courtenay. So my sister actually is a librarian. She recommended this book to me quite some time ago. Can anybody hear me? Okay. And barely, you
They
said?
said barely.
Okay, you said that. Anyway, so she had recommended this. I started to read it. I really just couldn't get into it at all. And just recently, in the last year, I sort of picked it up again. And the reason I picked it up about it is this book is about South Africa. And I began to understand when all this process through Mandela, being in and out of hospital and things like that, and talking about a lot of the things that he did, I understood that myself I knew very, very little about South Africa. Because I'm old, I had geography in school. So whatever I did learn about South Africa was very sort of small amount. And so one of the things that was really interesting about this book is the author was born in South Africa, immigrated eventually to Australia. But the book actually follows the life of a young boy who actually lives in the Boer area of South Africa. And I had to go back to my John Wolfman, I had to go to my encyclopedia, not to my online server, and look up a little bit of information about South Africa, because I couldn't remember when the English took over and the whole process of the Boer War and what happened. But in this book, it kind of has a little bit of flavor of racism, and a lot of the racism where actually it is between the English who have taken over and Afrikaners who are Boer, who are quite resentful of them losing the war. And then, of course, the other, which are called the people. And so the people are the black Africans whose land it actually is. And so that also is talked about in here. This book is fiction. So it's not really about morality, really. He's very, very nice and gentle about how he presents all these things. So you don't feel as if you're reading it that he's kind of going through the process and letting everybody know that, you know, we made bad decisions and we didn't really mean. But the issue about this young boy, he's raised and brought up in this area. At 5 years old, his mother ends up in hospital because of a mental disorder. And so he gets sent to boarding school. And in boarding school, what happens is he realizes that he's the hated English because he's with a whole bunch of Afrikaners youth who are much bigger and much more adept at really bullying him. And they bull him really, really nasty to him. And so what he learns, which is sort of a theme through the whole book, is he learns how to kind of disappear. He learns how to camouflage himself really well. And throughout the book, it's a very good theme about how he camouflages himself throughout the whole book in different ways to kind of survive and for him to take care of himself. The other thing about this book, has anybody ever seen a boxing match? Anybody here? Well, this book is all about boxing. If you like boxing, you will like this book. I certainly wouldn't have picked it up for that reason, because I don't know very much about boxing. But one of the black fellows that teaches him about boxing teaches him a lot, because the black man that teaches him has learned a lot about camouflage and how he's had to camouflage himself in this country that is native to him. And so he teaches him what to look for when you box and how to make sure that you camouflage your moves and so that he can identify the other person's moves. So camouflage is a big theme through here. And so this story kind of goes through his boarding school. It also goes back to when his grandfather moves to another area and he leaves boarding school and he goes into a town where he has 3 or 4 really, really strong mentors. He has a librarian who helps him learn all about literature and all the different poets and literature in the world. He has a German immigrant who has come from Germany, and he left Germany because he was a professional concert pianist who failed one time in remembering something about a Bach concert, so he left Germany, immediately immigrated to South Africa, really was a biologist, taught this young man everything he knew about plants, Latin. He learned how to speak Zulu, he learned how to speak Afrikaner, he learned how to speak, well, he spoke English. So he learned about 4 other tribes' languages. And working in a prison or being involved in a prison close to this town, because Doc is put in prison because he's German. And because it is just before World War II comes in, anyone who's German ends up in a concentration camp. Even though it was South Africa, that's what they did with him. In this case, he was put in prison. So this man taught him how to play music, he taught him all about biology, he taught him how to hike, he taught him all sorts of things. And the other thing about it is while they're in prison, this young boy actually visits the prison every day to take a music lesson. And then what happens is that he also then goes to the gym and gets involved with boxing. And so the guards there have all their children who are involved in the boxing club, so he starts to learn how to box. And meanwhile, he and this group of people have kind of a smuggling thing going on within the prison. But it's smuggling letters from the families of most of the black people who were in the prison, and then bringing letters or teaching them how to write a letter in English. And so it's back and forth. So what you do is you follow this fellow's adventures from the time he's about 5 years old till he's about 20. I think it goes through just the beginning of the Korean War. And he speaks, it's always about, it's in the first person, so he's doing the speaking. It moves really, really quickly. It's really hard once you get into, like if you're going to read it, you need to make sure to give yourself time. I'm a pretty fast reader, so you know, if I started on Friday night, I'd probably just spend the whole day Saturday reading it and forget about anything else that had to happen to me. So, you know, that's what I do. But anyway, it's really a big, long book. I think it's, yeah, what is it, 500 or 600 pages. I probably would have cut some of them out myself if I had been the editor. But it's very, very, I found it very, very interesting. I found it interesting because here I am during the whole time reading this during Mandela's thing. And because he becomes really good at boxing and he wins all the time, the people, or the Africans that are there, follow him because they have a hope and a belief that at some time in the future there will be someone that will step up in South Africa and heal some of the wounds that are present within this country. They don't care whether that person is black or white. According to the people, it needs to be somewhere. And on some level, they believe that this young man who wins all the boxing matches, that they go and see every single time he fights. And as soon as he finishes, they all get up and leave. And they sing to him, and they have songs about him. And so he's kind of like a bit of a, you sort of get a sense that he's a bit of a, like a messiah in some way to them. He's their great white hope in a way. So I could go on and on about it and tell you all sorts of things, because there's all sorts of areas to go into. But I suppose that's probably enough. Any questions?